Good morning, everyone. We are live from the Eagan Fire Safety Center on Wednesday, November 21st. My name is Dave Osberg, the City Administrator for the City of Eagan. Next to me is Tom Pepper, our Finance Director. Good morning, Tom. How are you today?
Morning, Dave.
Good to be here, as you and I have done in the past several years or so, trying to bring the budget to the citizens of Eagan. Talk about what we have proposed for the 2019 budget. That's our plan for the next several minutes or so. We're trying to do it at as much as we can, convenient for the public. We understand maybe 11 o'clock on the day before Thanksgiving isn't the best time, but maybe some of you are stuck at the airport, you're queued up on Facebook, you want to ask a question, whatever the case might be, we want to hear from you today, tomorrow, the next day about the 2019 budget for the City of Eagan. As we've done in the past, we want to be transparent, open, and we want to hear your questions this morning about what might be on your mind about the city's 2019 budget. So we encourage you to ask questions. If we can't answer them on the spot, or if we have to get more information, we're going to be certain we do that in a timely manner on the Facebook post for the City of Eagan, and we want to be certain we get all your questions answered here in the next few minutes or so, leading up to the city's Truth and Taxation hearing, which we'll get to in a minute on December 4th. Tom, let's, as we hopefully get some questions here, let's talk a little bit about and share with the public where we've been the last year and a half or so with, we're in this 2019 is the second year of a two-year budget under your leadership in finance. We implemented a two-year budget cycle. So maybe you can just share with those who are watching kind of how that two-year budget process has worked, and then we'll kick into some of the key points that folks will see in the 2019 budget as it's currently proposed.
Yeah, Dave, last year is when we started this two-year budget cycle, and it was a brand new thing for us, and it's turned out to be a great planning tool, a better planning tool to be able to look at things on a two-year basis, as well as this year it's been a great chance to focus on other aspects of the budget. We did most of the heavy lifting last year in preparing a two-year operating budget. So all of the departments, starting last April, prepared both a 2018 budget and a 2019 operating budget. And the council reviewed those at a workshop last year in August, and then again approved the 2018 budget in its entirety in December of 2018, and basically gave a nod of approval toward the 2019 budget as it was presented. So at the beginning of this year, maybe April or May of this year, we asked departments for the 2019 budget, are there any significant changes that need to be made? Mostly changes that would be generated from either state or city council action or other significant market changes that would have affected the budgets. And in fact, there just were not that many of those things. There was really, I think the most significant one was in 2018, the state legislature passed a rate increase for PARA, which is the state pension for police and fire, and that had an impact on the 2019 budget of about $73,000, and all of the other changes, and there weren't that many of them, maybe a dozen other ones, had a total impact of $100,000 net. So the actual increase over what the council looked at in detail a year ago is about less than half of a 1% increase.
I think a case could be made, Tom, or to credit to senior management and those supervisors who prepare budgets and their staff. They did a pretty good job in we'll say July of 2018 laying out 2 years, because like you said, $173,000 on a $38 million budget, that was pretty precise. Tom, let's maybe hit some hard facts right away so folks have an understanding. You know, the additional taxes that are being collected, proposed to be collected in 2019. Maybe talk about some data that folks that are watching might be interested as the current budget is under proposal for the City Council.
Sure, Dave. So the general fund budget itself is up 5.5% over the 2018 budget, and the levy, the tax levy, which is what hits your pocketbook is up 5.8% over a year ago. And if you look at your tax statements that you would have gotten in the mail not that long ago, you'd probably notice that if you're the average homeowner, you would probably see close to 10% increase in your property value, and not quite as big of an increase in the city portion of the property taxes. Again, I think we've talked a little bit about your property tax statement shows it looks kind of like this. It looks like this that you would have received in the mail a week or so ago, and it has not only the city taxes on there, but the school district and the county taxes, as well as some special taxing districts. And you'd see on there the city portion of the taxes going up a slightly less percentage probably than the value of your home went up, because the tax rate is actually decreased by 3 to 4% over what it was a year ago, the city's tax rate.
Tom, while you're talking, I mean, again, while we're live here, Josh, we do have one slide where I'm going to have you queue up here that maybe gives an example, a broad, high-level example of property taxes for the city of Eagan and how we compare with some peer cities. Tom, maybe just share a little bit about that, and then I'll talk about an example of a truth in taxation notice and how that breaks down in a real live example. So, Tom, talk about what we have in front of us, and then I'll jump into some of the details on a T&T statement.
Sure, Dave. Every year for as long as I can remember, we've been comparing ourselves to the same 17 other cities who are either comparably sized cities here in the metro area and or Dakota County cities. And so we just like to see how we measure up in terms of taxes on a fixed value of property in each one of those different cities. So if you were to look at a $276,000 home, which is the average in Eagan right now, and figure out what are the taxes in all of those different cities on that value home, you would see that Eagan shows up at $999. The lowest city of the 18 cities is Plymouth at $722. But the average, the second line from the bottom there on that chart, the average for the 18 cities is $1,172 for that same value home. So we are quite a bit below the average, but not at the very lowest level.
And Josh, you can take that slide down. I want to talk a little bit. Tom showed an example of a truth in taxation notice, and I just want to illustrate it without getting into the precise. But this is an example of a truth in taxation notice from a resident here in the city of Eagan. And as the slide showed a second ago, that's the city's share of the property tax. And if folks out there are a lot like me, you get your truth in taxation notice and you look at the bottom line and say, well, how much are my property taxes going up? And it's small print, so I got to put my glasses on here. So in the example I'm going to walk through, and these are some important things to keep in mind as you look at your truth in taxation statement leading up to what will become the City Council's hearing on December 4th. It's really three parts of the truth in taxation notice, or there's three, if you take out some of the smaller jurisdictions, the Met Council, but by and large I think people look at the three major taxing jurisdictions in this example in the city of Eagan. Dakota County obviously levies some taxes to pay for their various programs and their 2019 budget. This property owner is in 2019 paid about $795 in Dakota County property tax, and in proposed for 2019 property is going to pay about $867. Then I want to talk a little bit about the school district. This property is in School District 196, and sometimes you'll see on your notice voter approved levies. This property has about an increase of about $152 in 2019 as a result of voter approved levies. And then the city of Eagan, this property in 2018 on this property paid about $1,100 in city share of the property taxes, and in 2019 it'll be about $1,247. So this increase, the city's share is $118 more from 2018 to 2019. Now, the other factor that comes into play, I think, when people look at this, and Tom, you and I have been doing this a long time here in Eagan and other cities, is people look at this and they might come to their city council and not suspect, but ask, well, why did you increase the value of my home? It's important to understand that the county assessor's office is the department that assesses assesses your property across the entire city of Eagan and all of Dakota County. So those who might come to a truth and taxation hearing, whether it be in the city or the county or the school district, I think it's important for everyone to understand that the county establishes the assessed value. And in this particular case, this property was assessed in 2018 at just over $308,000, and the proposed assessment or market value for this property is about $348,000. So that's going to be a factor of why this resident maybe also saw an increase in their property tax. So bottom line, for this example, in 2018, the property paid $3,500 in property tax, and in 2019, they're proposed to pay about $3,859, which is an increase of about 10%. And what is that, about $300? It's probably a third, $100 as a result of the city's share, $100 or so for the county share, and another $100 for the school district. So it's important, I think, for all of us to understand as residents, and certainly we as a city are always cognizant of what other jurisdictions are doing with their taxes. But it's important to recognize, I think, for all of us that there are really three facets that make up one's property tax for the upcoming year.
And Dave, if I can just follow up
Please do.
on that question. If you're one of those who feel like your value of your house has increased way beyond what it's worth, then there is a process that you approach the Dakota County Assessor's Office, and there's a process. This is not actually the right time to start that process, but it's a process of appealing your value. And if you feel strongly that your house is overvalued, go to the Dakota County website, Dakota County, that's co.dakota.mn.us, and in the search box right there on their homepage, just type in appeal and assessment, and it'll take you right to the page that explains the process that you go through to have them look at value on your home.
Josh, if I might, probably a good time, Tom, to we got one other slide that kind of illustrates we talked about a little bit globally as we compare to other cities, but this gives you some sense of what an average property, residential property, might pay from 18 to 19. Tom, if you want to take just a second or so and just share how this plays out for an average home in the city of Eagan.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the average home went up in value. If you look at the first column there, the 2018 versus the 2019 average value home went from $276,000 to $300,000. That's an increase of just under 9%, 8.5% increase. The taxes do not match the increased percentage of the value of the home. The taxes on the right column there, you can see go up from just under 1,000 to 1,055, which is a 5.6% increase. And again, I mentioned that the tax rate went down from a year ago. So that's why, even though the value of a home goes up a certain amount, that doesn't necessarily have a bearing on the value of the percentage increase of your taxes. So because the rate went down, taxes go up less than the percentage increase on the home. And in general, you see the percentage increase there of 5.6%. In general, that's going to match or be pretty close to what the levy increase is every year. So it's really the levy increase that is going to determine what your taxes will do from year to year.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind is the benefit of Egan's been a growing city. We've been adding a lot of residential, commercial, industrial, and that that increases the total amount of market value of the city of Eagan, and that helps offset tax increases that, if you will, are kind of spread across all of the increase of the market value in our community. So, okay, any questions yet, Crystal? All right. Well, let me take maybe a few more minutes. And Tom, okay, the budget's going up just over 5.5% in totality. Expenditures about 5.5%. Maybe share with those who are listening the some of the key drivers on that by and large are related to some increased personnel that are proposed in the 2019 budget. So take a few minutes and tell us what some of the key changes are for the 2019 budget.
Sure, Dave. As you mentioned, the personnel is a huge percentage of the city's budget. We're a service organization, and it's probably 75% of the city's budget is staff costs. And so we are in the process right now of transitioning from a part-time fire department to part-time / volunteer fire department to a full-time fire department. It's not something that we can do in 1 year. It's a several-year process. But 2018 was the beginning of that process when we added 6 new firefighters full-time. 2019 is a continuation. Another 6 firefighters are slated for the year. And in addition, police, it's kind of again, it's a public safety focus on the budget increases this year. Police, again, last year there were 3 staff. In 2018, in 2019, another 2 police officers are slated to be hired. Again, with all of the development going on, especially up in the Vikings area and at Central Park Commons, and as well down at the Outlet Mall, there's requests and needs and more calls coming for public safety. So those are the main drivers of
I think we have
the
one
budget.
More additional park maintenance worker also proposed for 2019.
That's right. There was one added in 2018, and there's also another one for 2019. And apart from that, that is probably all of the staff additions. Those right there.
Those are certainly important additions, but I think you and I and others have talked about it's not a so to speak it's not a big change from what was proposed. There's not a lot of fluff or additional programming in there. It's not a real glamorous, so to speak. Not that budgeting never is real glamorous, but for people like you and
Sure.
I. But I do think it's important for folks to understand, like we talked earlier about that. I think it's safe to say people were pleased with the 2-year budget cycle. Council's been pleased, and I think it's a sign of good planning. We try and lay things out 2 years in advance, and I think we'll learn more. We'll learn from this process and fine tune it even better when we get started in April of 2019, which will lead. I got to do my math here. We'll be preparing the 2020 and 2021 budgets. Am I
That's
right?
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, well, with that, while we haven't had any questions today, as we start to wrap up, I want to encourage folks, if you watch this at your leisure at a different time and you think, oh, I wish Tom and Dave would have covered this, or I have a question, there will be a chance on in the comment section of Facebook to ask a question. We want to hear from you. We want everyone to understand how the budget works. If you have any questions, you can re-watch this, and it'll be back on our website under the budget, and also on Facebook. And then perhaps most importantly, as you will see on your Truth and Taxation notice on Tuesday, December 4th in the council chambers at the City Hall is the annual public hearing the City Council will be conducting to hear feedback from the public, thoughts they have on the budget. You'll probably see some of the same information you saw today as part of the presentation that Tom and I will help coordinate, and I know the council will want to hear from you that night. So with that, I want to thank everyone for watching live, and if you rewatch it, thank you for being a part of it. And as I said when we started, we want to be certain that we get all your questions answered, and we have a very open process as we look out into the future in the 2019 budget. So I want to thank the ETV staff and communication staff for helping put this together, and Wish everyone a great day.